Hey everybody, welcome to session 12 already of our home scale wind turbines and towers primer. Today we have a very exciting session. The topic will be, or is, the differences between the Anorra and the Anorra 1.4, as well as the Anorra and the Anorra Plus from a field installation perspective. The actual performance of these two turbines were covered in session 1 and 2, if you want to refresh your memory. So the big thing we're going to talk about is Anorra 1.4 and Anorra Plus today. Having said that, I think some of you may believe that these presentations are too detailed. Well, it's a matter of judgment, I guess. With the time that we have, perhaps I'm going with more is better than less. You can always skip some slides during the on YouTube if that's too much details. Okay, so let's remember from the last session, session 11, and on session 11, what we talked about was three things. We talked about pre-sales opportunities. We talk about inspection and maintenance in terms of pre-sales, warranty, and site assessment and power electronics. Okay, so let's get to it. So the Anorra 1.4. Anorra 1.4 is designed for class 4 wind only. So class 4 wind is wind between 4.5 and 6 meters per second. Again, we talked about that in the session 1 and 2. There's only two key differences between the Anorra 1.4 and the Anorra from a field installation perspective. So let's cover that. Well, as the name implies, the Anorra 1.4 has longer blades. So if you have low wind speed, 4.5 to 6 meters per second, a longer blade captures more wind, and as a result, captures more energy and generates more electricity when compared maybe for the Anorra, which is a 1 meter blade. So 1.4 meter blade, which is technically 40% longer than the 1 meter blade, right? And secondly, the root of the blade is rectangular, so two flat surface. If you recall, the Anorra itself is circular. The root is circular. Right? So that's the big difference. As a result of that, the hub, which is piece of hardware that connects the blade to the shaft of the generator, need to change, right? Because this is a flat surface instead of a round surface or circular surface. So having said that, the big thing here is, well, first, the hub is made of two plates, just like the Anorra, but they're flat plates, round, circular. The back plate, the one that connects to the shaft, is pre-mounted on the generator assembly, so you don't have to worry about that. So when you get the generator, the back plate is already there, connected on the shaft. Secondly, it's worth pointing out that blades are balanced, all three blades are balanced in conjunction with the hub blades. All right, so we balance the whole subsystem, blades and the hub. Okay, so we do that. So the key thing here is that the key thing is to bring in the front plate, which is here. Okay, and you have 6 bolts to connect the two plates together. And you can see from here what it looks like. two bolts with washers and nuts that will connect the two plates together. Okay, and you have to leave some space in between so the bolts are not fully threaded, so you cannot squeeze them too much. Okay, so there's some space in between. All right, so you do that, and then what happens is then you insert each blade, the root of each blade, in between the two hub plates. All right, and you secure each blade with 4 bolts. So there's 4 bolts per blade to secure the blade on the hub. That's important because you have a 1.4 meter blade rotating at a certain speed. So we certainly want to make sure that the blades stay connected on the hub. Inside the root of the hub is metal, so to complement the carbon fiber. All right. So when you're done, you do all 3 of them, and you secure all the bolts. All right. You have 6 to secure the 2 plates, and then you have 4 each for each blade. That's a lot of bolts. And then this is what you get. Then you get the blade. That's exactly the rendering of the Anorra Plus, Anorra 1.4 blade here. This is what it looks like, and you're ready to go. Okay, so that is the difference between the field installation between the Anorra and the Anorra 1.4. Everything else that we've covered in the first 11 sessions stays the same. Okay, pretty straightforward. Okay, next, let's talk about the Anorra Plus. Much bigger turbine, and as a result of that, the blades are longer, so 2 meter blades, rectangular hub. So the field assembly procedure for those blades is the same as for the Anorra 1.4 blade. We just covered that, right? The hub plate will be a little bit bigger, but same assembly procedure. So there's no point repeating that. The tower in our Plus is much bigger, stronger, because of the wind and the forces that hit the blades when they're 2 meters long, at 6 feet. So the concrete cast is a very similar concept, except for the Anorra Plus, it's got 5 rods, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rods instead of 4. Okay, but the procedure to install it into the concrete, poured concrete, and to the 4x4 base is the same. All right. Now, where the big changes are on the tilt base and the tower and the couplers. So why don't we go there right now? All right. So if you recall, for the Anorra 1.4, the tilt base comes pre-assembled pretty much with a few brackets and straightforward. That is not the case for the Anorra Plus. The Anorra Plus will require more field assembly. The second thing is that I want to talk about on the Anorra Plus is that the tilt base and the gin pole rotation tilt are totally independent of each other, which is different than for the Anorra. And there's some advantage to that. Okay, so what are the major components of the Anorra Plus tilt base? They are the plate, and you can see from the plate all the 5 holes for the concrete cast rods, right? You can see them here. We have the outer bracket. We'll see how it goes later on. We have the inner bracket here, and we have the pole. And you're right. You notice that the pole is not circular. It's not a tube. Well, it's circular. It is a tube, but is it a square tube? And that's a bit bigger. it is 4" by 4" by 12 long. So longer than the pole for the Anorra 1.4. Right? It's also heavier, but two people can carry one pole at a time. I should say all of these all galvanized. Other components. This is more for the gin pole. Well, you got a gin pole bracket. You got what's called a pivot block. And then we have a clamp base. And finally, we have a gin pole. Now, in this case, the gin pole is 3 by 3 by 12 feet long. The gin pole has holes in it, right, to attach it, but it's the only component that's not galvanized. The reason for that is technically the gin pole should not stay outside once the tower is up. Okay. So how do we start? It's a good question. So we are going here. So remember now we have the plate with the 5 holes for the concrete cast. So the first thing is we put the inner brackets and we assemble and secure them. Okay. Sure. And then the second thing is then we place the plate on the concrete cast with the concrete base being cured. And you can see the 5 nuts and washers here that connects it to the concrete cast, which is embedded into the concrete base. Okay. And you secure all that and tie it up nicely. Now, this is the second part of it, is you assemble and secure the 2 tower out brackets that are here. I show you to them where they are. And then you assemble and secure the 2 gin pole brackets. All right. So you have the pivot for the tower will be here. We'll see that in a few minutes. And you've got the brackets for the gin pole here. All right. So here's the detail assembly here. And is what it looks like. You know what? Why don't I make this a little bit bigger so everybody can see that better? Okay, so that's, and again, it's, it's Borum's approach. The parts are there, lots of bolts, nuts, and washers. All right, next step. Sorry, I got lost here. So the next step after that, next step here is then you, once you've done all this, you align the clamp. This is the clamp plate. And this is the pivot block that I showed you a few minutes ago. So you align them, they both have a hole in it of the correct size. And then what you have here is you have a structured bolt that you insert and go through them. Okay, 1, 2. So once you start that, this is what it looks like here. I can make this a bit bigger, and you can see the clamp base here, the pivot block here, and you have the structured bolt coming in, going through it. Once you've done that, then you go on the other side and you put the clamp base, clamp plate, and the next pivot. You put them all together, and what you get now is you get this assembled part, right? Clamp base on clamp plate on both sides here with the pivot, and the structured bolt secure and tight. But we're not done yet. We still have a few steps. So now the system comes with 6 what called clamp bolts. So then, you have those 2 clamp bolts in parallel. So you put them through. with the washers and nuts. All right, hand tight only. So you do this, and what you get is this. You can see the assembled part here, right? The two clamp base and this 1, 2, 3 on this side, 1, 2, 3 below it of those bolts. After that, this is when you insert one of the tower poles. Now, obviously, for rendering here, we make it very short, but remember, it's a 12-footer. So you insert that in between the two clamp bays and in between the bolts. That's why it's important at this step just to hand tight the two, hand tight the nuts here. Don't go too far. So once you've done that, this is what you get at the end, right? And this is obviously longer, but the second rendering. So now you have the first pole, tower pole, connected to the tilt base. Okay. Final step. Now you have to take that gin pole. Remember, the gin pole is a 3x3 with one hand as a true hole in it. So you bring the gin pole in between the two brackets and you secure it with the bolt that's provided. And then what you have is this. You're ready to go. You've got your tilt base with the first tower pole here. And you got your gin pole ready to go. The rest of it in terms of guy wires and all that is the same procedure that we've covered for the Anorra or the Anorra 1.4 tower system. Same thing, except the guy wires are thicker and bigger, but the same procedure applies.
It's nice to be. Yep.
Finally, and I think we're going to finish early today, the tower for the Anorra Plus is a square tower, as we can tell, 4x4x12. So we design our own coupler for that. Now, contrary to the Anorra or the Anorra 1.4, which the coupler comes ready to be inserted into the tower pole, for the Anorra Plus, the couplers comes in those components, and these components you need 4 of them to make a coupler. So you put them all together, and with some bolts and nuts, and then there's some room for the to connect the guy wires. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so what do we cover today? So we talk about the big difference between the Anorra and the Anorra 1.4, which is the blade, and the root of the blade, which is rectangular, so flat surface. As a result of that, the hub is different for the Anorra 1.4 than it is for the Anorra. We covered the assembly of that. In terms of the Anorra Plus, a couple of things. One is the blade is longer, 2 meters.
Yes.
It's the same assembly procedure for the blade as the Anorra 1.4. The concrete cast is pretty much the same, except it's got 5 rods instead of 4, but the assembly and putting into the concrete is pretty much the same. The big difference is the tilt base and pivot. Tilt base comes here that we have to do the assembly yourself in the field, and we covered all that. And at the end, the couplers, because it's a square tower, square tube tower, then we have our own couplers here that also need to be assembled in the field. So lots of nuts, lots of bolts, but nothing that cannot be done with a ratchet and a little bit of time. Okay, on that note, I'll stop and thank everybody for their time and see if there's any Q&A.